Episode 15, Juicebox Junkies podcast. Marty Coleman, Kyle, Texas, with me today. You can't see his beautiful face. Christian Espinosa, Seattle. Yes, he's a closet Mariners fan, or I like to think that. Christian, how's things in Seattle this
God.
afternoon?
It was good. I was out and about yesterday for this is for the final game of the Mariners series, and it was not fun. By the time I left the bar, or I started at the bar, it was empty, and by the time I left, it was packed, and I was getting heckled here and there. So that was a blast. So happy to be
Hey,
back amongst Astros friends.
let them heckle you while they can. You'll be heckling them in October, watching the playoffs in that same bar that Brian Dunleavy and I were ordering beers from
Oh
off the
yeah.
picture you posted on Slack. Brian Dunleavy, Fredericksburg, Virginia. I remembered it this time, Brian, because you told me Fredericksburg. I should remember that. Fredericksburg, Texas is right down the street. So, what's happening, Brian?
Nothing much. Welcome to my office, also known as the storage bin of all the stuff.
Well, we were joking before we hit record that your 114 kids, you're probably just going to leave the house. That's a break. But you said this is your break. You get to talk baseball with two other guys that love the Astros. So it all works out. Hey, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but that rotation that everybody was sold on and has performed, I would say, as I think Christian put on our document, one of the top three in baseball. I think during the month of May, they were at the very top, at least for a good chunk of the month. I started noticing, I've been tracking the starting rotation, as you guys know, is following me on Twitter. I started noticing a few cracks in the armor, number one being Jose Urquidy. I think he gave up 12 hits in one game, then 10 in the next or something crazy like that. So Jose Urquidy's had a few bumps in the road, but also Christian Javier has had several bumps in the road. Now, I went and looked at Christian Javier, tried to dig into the stats today, and I could not find anything that the advanced numbers, anything that was different. He's not walking a lot more. Now, he walked 4 the other day, but in general, his walk rate is down. The batting averages against his stuff is about the same, but he is all over the place. His last 5 starts. Let's look at this. Of course, great podcast here. 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs. Then he had 2 really good starts, or at least game score wise: 6 innings and 1 run, 9 strikeouts and a walk. 5 2/3, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, and a walk. So, and that was only 5 2/3. So he had game scores of 70 and 71 back to back. After that first start I talked about was a 19. And then in his last start on June the 6th against the Mariners, 3 2/3, 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 strikeouts, and a walk. So he's not walking a lot of people in general, but he's not getting a lot of people out, and he's not averaging a lot of innings. As I mentioned, I couldn't find anything where his advanced numbers were way crazy. I did find something in Urquidy. His fastball is getting drilled. Last year, they're batting Urquidy on the fastball. Opponents are batting .320 and slugging .582 on his four-seamer, where last year those numbers were a .237 batting average and .423 on the slugging. So with Urquidy, it's the fastball. With Javier, I don't know what it is. Has anybody got any ideas? Brian Dunleavy, you're up.
You look to, just like you said, with Urquidy in his last start. I mean, when you had bottom of the hole guys catching up to a letter high fastball, that's not a good sign. It means he's really not fooling anybody, and I think that's the most concerning part. And Christian Javier, I think his struggle is he's just inconsistent. I don't think he has yet to fully be consistent in all his pitches throughout every start. So you get what you get. And I just don't think it's going to be going to be the best of situations necessarily, but here's the big picture problem that I foresee is the impact on potential playoff run, right? So you look at that and you say, well, we have JV. That's one down, but who's next? You really don't have anybody. After that, it's not like you're going to say, "Ooh, we definitely want this guy second in the hole." I mean, Framber Valdez is your best go-to, right? Everybody's like, "Yeah, Framber Valdez is the guy." Well, last year, what did he do in the playoffs? He had a 7.78 ERA for the playoffs. So if that's your number two, that's really concerning, right? I mean, that's not what and of course that's one postseason. I really don't count 2020. That was a blip, on the radar for most people. But the first real playoffs that we had, his ERA 7.78, and I think a lot of it was nerves. But we'll see how we go from. That's all I have to go on right now. I can't say that it's going to be that way always, but that's what we have to go on. Same thing. You look at Luis Garcia. Maybe he's number 3, right? 8.04 ERA for the playoffs last year. Okay, that's even worse. Not good. Then you look at Jose Urquidy, 8.22. Oh, it's not getting better. So my question is, and Javier didn't start. Javier got no starts and has no starts in the playoffs ever. So he's an unknown factor. His ERA was 3.38. But it was all relief appearances, a couple innings, one to 1 or 2 innings. So the question remains for me. McCullers is still not back. He's still not even doing real rehab stuff for the most part. So hopefully he gets back and he's in form. But he's a question mark for the playoffs too on what you're going to get out of him. So who's your number 2 guy? Who's your number 3 guy? And right now it's concerning to me. I think you can win a playoff series in the first round, maybe get into the league championship series with one really good starter and one average starter. But if you don't have 3 solid starters, you're not going to get very far in the playoffs. And once you get to the deeper, the ALCS and the World Series, you really need 4 that you can count on because the games are coming fast and furious there. So the question is, what is the starting pitching situation going to look like in the playoffs? Are there options that we're looking at to take on? I mean, last year Greinke really pulled through for the most part for us. He was the number 2 guy once McCullers went out, and then he was the number 1. So I'd love to see some look into that, maybe some options in the future or what we're going to do to build that playoff strength and that playoff roster in the rotation. I think that could be an easy option. If you're in a win now situation, which I think the Astros are, do you lose some of the future, trade some prospects for a guy that will get you to the playoffs again and to the World Series?
Okay, you're talking 105 games away in the playoff. I'm concerned even about the rest of the regular season, right? Justin Verlander, I don't know if you guys realize this, is on a pace to hit 185 or 190 innings. We're 57 games in. He's thrown 71 2/3 innings, I think. I calculated out today. On the bottom end, it's like 182. On the top end, depending on how many starts and days of rest and all that stuff, it's somewhere, between 190, 192 or 3. Yeah, add in, as you mentioned, Lance McCullers threw a bullpen of 25 pitches the other day, and here we are on June the 9th. Jake Odorizzi threw 20 pitches. He couldn't even make it to 25. All of a sudden, with Urquidy and Javier and McCullers, who we didn't really plan on until the end of the season or second half anyway, McCullers and Odorizzi, that 6-man rotation is looking more like a 1.5-man rotation. And I'm questioning if the one, JV, they're going to have to go to a deeper rotation, maybe pull somebody up. Matt Kunkel has joined us from Dallas, Texas, without a tie this week. Matt, your thoughts on the rotation right now and leading into the postseason, hopefully.
First of all, Murray, I got a tie.
Oh, sorry.
And it's fantastic. That's interesting. What the last pod we did, we were kind of complaining about how great our team was and how worried we were. I think this is a legit worry because beyond JV, I think we're 162 games deep. I don't think we're 16 wins in October deep with some of the starting pitching. Although I would argue Framber Valdez has shown to at least take somewhat of a bigger step. I would feel comfortable labeling him as a number 2, but regardless, I think we are, the back end starting pitching is a concern. I think with Urquidy and Javier, I mean, people have had time to adjust to him, and that's why the elite pitchers, when you see them over and over again, they're still successful because they have great stuff. What we're seeing out of Urquidy and Javier, may be worth talking about around the trade deadline, seeing if maybe we can move 1 or 2 of them for an arm that'll help us win now in October. I don't know beyond that. I think we gotta, I think we're in the June swoon of like, we're doing very well. We're cruising. We're 10 games up. But that ultimate goal in October, I think it's legit to ask yourself, can these guys get through an elite team twice in a series? I think outside of JV, I think the answer is maybe not. And then we should probably look to see what we can do around the trade deadline.
First world problems, 10 games up on June the 9th, worried about your starting rotation that's in the top 3 in the league. Hey, fellas, let's talk about some good news. Yordan Alvarez, one of my favorite guys behind Chas McCormick. I sing this guy's praises all the time. I used to write articles about him. I tweet about his incredible numbers in the 162 game averages, which I think last time I looked was 290 with 45 home runs, 127 RBI, and
pretty good.
157 OPS plus. And people on Twitter go, "Yeah, does he hit home runs? If you're going to pay him that much, he should hit home runs." I'm like, what games are you watching, Christian? Yordan signed an extension, and he's a wealthy man now. What do you think about the new contract or the new extension for Yordan Alvarez?
Well, don't look now, but he's hitting home runs. So, just to give you a little preview of when you thought Yordan couldn't get any better, he was pretty damn good to begin with. But he has got, I think his OPS is up over 1. I think it's 1.025. And he has a 195 WRC plus, right? And I believe league average, Marty, you would probably know better than I would, is about 100 for WRC plus.
Somewhere in that general area, yes.
So we basically have a designated hitter / part-time left fielder that's twice as good as anyone else in the league right now. So so that's pretty amazing. He's only 24 years old. We gave him the second largest contract extension in Astros history besides Jose Altuve, who's more than paid for his contract. I don't think the Astros dish these out very much, and when they do, they're going to do it right. And so I think Yordan Alvarez is a generational talent. I think he's a generational hitter. He's someone that will, look back on as like an Albert Pujols type who was just absolutely dominant at the plate. They shift on him. They do all kinds of things trying to play some of the advanced metrics, and he just tears teams apart. So I think that the Astros have 100% made the right move here. Astros fans should be excited to have him for the future. I think he's he's not getting the national sort of play that he probably should, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that he is a designated hitter for the most part. He does play some very serviceable left field for us at times, and that platooning of the position with Michael Brantley has worked out really nice for the team, in my opinion. Just making sure to keep those miles off of both of those guys' legs for different reasons, but I think it's just a fantastic signing. I think it's going to be worth every dollar. I think he's going to anchor that line. I will never see anyone over the next how many ever years. I would think is until the next 6 years hitting that 4 hole, and I think it's very much earned and deserved. So,
all right, let me say this: he's allegedly 24 years old.
Allegedly, I did not look like that at 24.
It's kind of amazing because I put his Statcast numbers on Twitter the other day, and the only thing he was suffering in was the only blue thing on the screen was his sprint speed, and at times he looks really fast, and then other times he looks really slow. Like when he was chasing that ball that got past him the other day, I was thinking I could run faster than that, but when he's going motoring around the bases, he sure doesn't look like somebody in the 27th percentile in sprint speed. We know Maldi's in the first percentile. He's got to be. I haven't even checked.
I think Yordan's got hustle, and I think he's got some intangibles that don't really show up because we've seen it at times. I mean, if you watch the broadcast and you can see, Todd Callis and Jeff Blum talking about, okay, that particular's he was down the line as fast as, just a half second off of what Chaz McCormick would be, those types of things. And I think he picks his places for sure. But he's a gamer. Like he's got it. And he's proven to be clutch. He was the ALCS MVP last season. He hit 500 over 500 against the Red Sox, 6 RBIs. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, for this, I think the only thing that Astros fans at this point can ask for more from the organization is, can you make the same offer to Kyle Tucker? And I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't think Tucker's going to take an extension like that. I think he's going to probably play his odds a little more like Correa in a sense that he's a more complete ball player. He plays the field. He plays really well in the field, and he's a pretty dominant hitter. And so I think I think the Astros fans are going to be like, okay, we paid Yordan, now let's lock up Tucker too. But I don't think we'll see that sort of contract situation happen with Tucker. I think we're going to see him kind of try his hand at maybe getting one of those large contracts in on the open market.
And your newest New York Yankee, Kyle Tucker. Brian Dunleavy, what's your thoughts on extending Kyle Tucker after Yordan got extended?
Yeah, so I wrote about this a short while ago too, and I think that is an absolute must. If you're gonna keep this nucleus of a playoff team together, you gotta re-sign Tucker. I don't know if they're going to get it done. They had started some talks and some negotiations, and they ended pretty quickly at the same time. But I think he easily commands the same, like you said, the same contract that Yordan gets. And to Christian's point, he is currently tied for third in the American League for outfield assists. So he is, he's up there. He wasn't tied for second before when I wrote the article. Now he's tied for third. So he's a complete player. He plays the field well. He's got speed. He steals bases. He hits home runs. He drives runs in, and he hits for average. That's exactly the player that everybody hopes to have that they don't necessarily get from time to time. So I think really the question remains, and I think this is, of all the questions and of all the the big re-signings and extensions going on in the Astros, I think the number one question is with him, you extend him, so then really what's left? Brantley's, this is the last year of his contract, but his numbers have really dropped in recent memory, except for average. He's a great hitter for average. So I don't think he's going to command a high contract if you bring him back. He's not going to command a high number. And other teams aren't going to compete from the way that they would for Tucker. So I would love to see him sign Tucker before we get anywhere close to anything else. He would be a great compliment. And as I commented yesterday, finally, Yordan followed by Tucker in the lineup. That's the way it should be. The two best hitters should be back to back in the lineup. I'd love to see it change up a little bit, though, as I also commented too. Is I'd love to see Bregman drop to 5 and have Yordan 3, Tucker 4, and then Bregman 5. I think that would be the best case scenario, because then Yordan gets up guaranteed in the first inning, and if either of those two guys ahead of him get on, watch out, because we could be up 3-0 before even one out gets put on the board.
All right, Matt Kunkel, we have Yordan Alvarez. Now, I personally think it's because he wasn't part of the World Series winning team why he gets less love than some of the other Astros, but Tucker wasn't there also. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's my perception because Yordan's my second favorite player on the team behind who. But Matt, what's your take on, well, first, if you want to give a little bit on Yordan getting extended, and then your take on the potential outcome of Tucker that Christian brought up, that maybe Tucker doesn't take the extension.
I mean, I guess I'll just start with I've gone to a few Astros games myself. I saw both Yordan and Kyle Tucker play AAA in Las Vegas. I saw them live. I saw them take batting practice. I was up close. I saw them both clobber some homers, and I was blown away. I was blown away by Kyle Tucker, but I've always been blown away by how great and how big and how effortless everything is for Yordan Alvarez at the plate. I think that was a fantastic play by the Astros. And if they're able to extend Kyle Tucker, which I think they should, I think there's a seamless, almost like I'll call it like the San Antonio Spurs of basketball, where we're kind of aging out this older nucleus, and now we have a pretty solid young nucleus that can, extend this championship window. But I think those two are, the best hitters with the best upside. The Astros need to lock them up.
Do you think Tucker will take, I don't know about the same numbers, but a similar type extension as Yordan does? Given what Christian said, he is a more complete ball player, though Yordan is playing more left field these days.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he may take more of a Carlos Correa route, but Carlos Correa is also at shortstop and arguably is the best defensive shortstop in the game. You can make that similar argument to what Kyle Tucker does defensively. I think he may, but I don't know if the Astros will let him get that far. I think with those two together, it just seems to make the most sense for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. These two should be hitting in the heart of the order and being the face of the franchise once Altuve and maybe Bregman. I guess we can include Bregman with the young nucleus. Once Altuve is kind of handed over the throne of team leader with the Astros in the next couple of years.
I think next podcast we're going to have a talk about Bregman and his recent history since his big year. Okay, guys, last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Astros currently 36-21, playing .632 ball. I calculated out the other day, now this was before last night, so when they were 36-20, if you just did it on winning percentage times 162 games, that put them at 104 wins. If you use the run differential, they were going to get 98 wins. My calculation yesterday said 101 wins. Fangraphs has the Astros, notoriously conservative. They have the Astros finishing the year at 59-46 to end up with 95 wins, same as last regular season. So, Christian Espinoza, do the Astros have more or less than 59 wins left in this season?
I think they got more. I think they do. And looking at how this division is playing out, it's exactly what we talked about on our very first podcast. And I know it was us four sitting on here and saying, if we could get through that first month of May when hype is high and teams are fresh, the Astros are going to be fine. They had a pretty suspect May. They came out, I think, maybe playing 500 ball, and it's exactly what they need. And they've been rolling ever since. And, of course, the Angels are doing exactly what the Angels were we thought they were going to do. The Rangers are
the Nickelback. We knew
yeah, the Nickelback won't save your season. The Rangers are actually playing better than what I would have expected to. And then the Mariners are just going through a natural regression of their performance last year. But I think that's a team that, they're still a few years out, but they're in the right direction. Then we know Oakland and their 12 fans are they got some issues going on. I think they got one of those worst run differentials in the AL. So, but that's a whole other topic. But I think we get a lot of games against the rest of this division, or we still get quite a few games against the rest of this division. The league isn't stacking up to be particularly brutal. I mean, the AL East is always tough, but the AL Central, we just went in Minnesota and showed that they are pretenders pretty easily. Guardians are playing well too. Just they're playing 500 ball, but their run differential is pretty solid. So I don't know. I don't see a ton of resistance in the regular season. Now, obviously, things change once October gets here, but yeah, I mean, we have a solid rotation to get us through these regular season games. Aside from some of the struggles of Urquidy and Javier that we highlighted at the top of the pod. But yeah, I think we're in line for at least 100 wins for sure.
Right. Christian goes with the over 95. Couple of notes. Angels last won a game on May 24th, fellas. May the 24th. We are now on June the 9th.
Unreal.
June the 10th. Brian Dunleavy, over under 95 wins for your Houston Astros.
So I think that's a tough number. I'll give it 96.
That's
over. That's over. I wouldn't say much over. And the reason I say that, looking at the rest of the schedule, it's going to be a tough, rest of June. You're playing both New York teams. That's going to be tough. The Marlins are actually playing decent baseball, and the Rangers, they're okay. But the rest of the teams that we're playing, and this is my caveat. If our pitchers keep pitching the same way or similar, not necessarily as bad. If you look at all the stats, I just kind of looked through and glanced through all the game logs and everything of those pitchers we were just talking about. The games where they have the toughest time are against the playoff caliber teams, and we play a lot more of those playoff caliber teams in the next couple months. August is a little break; it's a little respite from that. So we could be looking like we're under until we get to August, and then August we have another May, coming up like that, something like that. So that would save it. But I think the next 2 months will be tough. But another note. Just to throw some more gasoline onto the fire of over 95. If things remain the same, talking about the pitchers first, but now I'm talking about the hitters. Yordan will hit 54 home runs, 120 RBIs. Tucker, 31 home runs, 105 RBIs. So if that happens, that's tough to beat. I don't care who you are. So if those two guys average that out, I think we have no issue necessarily there. So, and we get the run support, and that's the strange thing about Urquidy. He does get run support. Who knows why? He's the guy that just gets all the run support, but he does. So, he's won more games than he maybe should have. But I think it'll be tough for the next couple months. But if we do pretty well. And don't stoop to the Angels level, which I don't think we'll have any issue with that. I think we'll be right around 96, and I think we'll be looking good.
Sounds good. I'm also going with the over. I don't know by how much. 11-10 in April, Christian. 21-8 in May. Off to a good start in June, fellas. That's going to do it for today. I appreciate your time, and hey, we'll talk again soon, and hopefully the Astros will have a 13 or 14 game lead. Until next time, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.